All right, guys, Sean and Matt report again, episode 36. Next week, the whole gang's together. Everyone else is taking it off. Mike's hanging out with dolphins. Jason's hanging out with golf clubs. Shout out to Fulfill, Northbeam, Sendlane. As always, they're committed to the operators in 2024. That's why I'm using all three of those products. Talk to you later.
Want to talk about 2024 today?
Yes, we're recording this on New Year's Day. Matt, what did you do to celebrate New Year's?
I went to bed at 9 p.m. Party animal.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I was in bed at 11. I did not see the ball drop. I had to take a flight this morning, so.
I could hear fireworks from my house. I could see them down the lake because I look down the lake at the city, but I think I was just kind of like dozing off. I did some journaling and then I went to sleep like the good old man that I am. And I woke up at 5:30 this morning.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. We should all be like Matt. I know a lot of people hitting the club till 4 a.m, out drinking, doing drugs. Matt's like, no way. I'm getting centered.
Oh yeah, I got up at 5:30. I got to run in at 7. Cook my family breakfast by like 8:30. I'm good. Let's get 2024 going.
Well, that's sick. What does your week look like? This is the first week of the year. Is it special? Is it different than a normal week? Like what actually happens?
No, this week is actually pretty normal. We do annual planning. It's like a 2-day planning session, like mid-December, kind of like once all the sort of like slows down from busy season. We go into 2 days with our exec team and then we start thinking about like 2024, not like what are we going to do for the whole year, but just what are we doing directionally? Like where do we want to go? What are the big themes for the year? So this week is kind of like week 1 on executing on quarterly plan. Like we plan the business 90 days at a time, man. I don't know if you guys do the same, but like it's a normal week. I wish it was something special. Do you do something special? Do you guys have like some kind of annual rah-rah kickoff thing?
Well, I wish we did this 2-day planning thing. I'll tell you how we plan a year. So this week for me is all about reporting. So I still do a lot of the year-end reporting. So it's probably 80 hours I have to cram out in the next like 4 days, and it can't really start until the 1st. So tonight, all day tomorrow, all day Wednesday, probably 12 hours each of those days. Like that's what I'm doing. And it's like, okay, what is actual top line revenue? What does it end at? So all the different revenue sources, rolling those up. Then it's like, how many rings did we actually sell? So going to each market, figuring out non-wallet sales by each one of those markets.
Wow.
And then it's stuff like figuring out returning customer revenue and how that changed over time. So I still dive there and do all that. I do that every month and then do that every quarter. And then the big one is the year in review. So I probably spend like 80 hours doing that. So that's what this week looks like for me.
What is the purpose of that process? Like so the output is what, and then what do you use it for? And like, does it get circulated to other people?
Yeah. So the monthly reports go to what I call the core leadership team. It's probably 20 people across Ridge. And it's like, it's a snapshot in time with how I actually feel about the month because there's written commentary. And then it has like all of our sales numbers, trends, whatever, what stuff we tried, what stuff we didn't. And it's incredibly helpful to look back on those monthly ones, in 2 years, right? Like I often reference what was my state of mind in October 2021? How did I think about this business? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? It just helps me like think about the future and calibrate it. And the quarterly ones, they become a Notion doc that has like a bunch of different things broken out into it. And for the quarterly and the year ones, the teams have to submit 5 paragraphs about like what happened, right? So like a written outline of stuff they tried, their goals, whatever.
So for your reporting, are you doing memos? Like, do you do a whole like CEO memo of like the year then for 2023? Like,
so inside the Notion doc, there is one tab that is a memo, and I'll share this. I'll share the outline, maybe in like a screenshot of the outline, something like that. So yeah, there's one that I call like thoughts on the year, and I'm just like, hey, this is what happened, and that's why on Twitter a couple of days ago, I shared like a recap of all the companies that have gone bankrupt. And it's like Thrasio, Jane,
Yeah.
Zuli, Smile Direct Club. Like I share that because I'm like, yeah, this year, 2023 was actually really hard and really bad for D2C. So we have to just like put into context what actually happened this year. And then who's it for? So all senior leadership is going to read it. I'll do a company all hands next Wednesday. So in like 10 days or whatever, where I go through like, what are the trends, what worked, what didn't. But yeah, that's what this week looks like. And
I'm not super dissimilar. Like this week I mean, you know this, I write a lot anyway, but like most of my writing this week is for like end of year look back. Where did we win? Where did we lose? Like, and a lot of it is prep for all hands, which is next Thursday, like annual kickoff all hands, which we do a monthly all hands anyway. So when I say it's normal, it's like I have the same blocks of time this week that I do for every week, but this week is definitely going to be a bit more like year focused than maybe every other week. But I think, what's interesting, man, I was thinking of this over the holidays because the last couple of weeks I kind of like, I try to shut down as much as possible. Do most CEOs I know write a lot? Like they are constantly writing. It is like, I think it's probably the number one output for the average CEO is the written word.
Yeah, without a doubt, all you really do is write, right? And I think you and I bond over this is that like, at the end of the day, I can't make Facebook ads that much better, right? Like
No.
If you put me in a Google Ads account, I will ruin it. I will totally tank it, right? I don't know what to do. yeah. But what I can do is like formulate thoughts. And the CEO of Blockbuster, he went to go on to become the CEO of maybe Expedia or something. The dude has like tens of maybe $100 million, whatever, right? Professional CEO. And I watched an interview with him and they're just like, what do you do? Like, what does the CEO of like just a big, large enterprise do? And he's like, well, mostly I just try to explain things very simply. And it's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then say that as much as possible.
Yep.
and
you repeat it every week, every month. Yeah, dude, it's like CEOs are professional memo writers. I think the first time that was like abundantly clear to me was reading what Bezos did and how he ran that company. It's like everything was about the memo and the written word. I actually think they were anti-presentation.
Yeah,
do not do a slideshow in this company.
Yeah, which I think is very funny.
I love it. I prefer it.
If you've ever been in Seller Central, you can tell they do not care about UI all that much at Amazon.
I'm not allowed to log in there either because that's a disaster if I try to touch it.
Oh, see, that's something I'm actually pretty good at. If you put me in an Amazon account, I know what the fuck's going on.
I hate it. I hate it.
So I just wanted to quickly circle back to why do I actually do all the reporting? I think a lot of CEOs offload that responsibility. Like they'll rely on their CFO, who relies on their strategic planning team, who relies on their finance team. Like
I'd be one of those people.
They just kind of kick it down and they're like, look, I'm here for the ideas and the vision. And I'm not to throw any shade, but that's very common at venture-backed companies.
It is.
And what it leads to is most venture-backed CEOs I know, or founders or senior executives, are just not sharp when it comes to their business.
Nope.
Like you can ask them a specific question and they just won't know. Like I can tell you how much revenue we did in silicone rings versus metal rings. And it's because I look at that because it's important.
Yeah.
And I've just noticed like a lot of times any founder who's raised money thinks it's beneath them, right? They're like, and I'm not accusing you of that, but
no, dude, I've been a bootstrapper more than I've been a venture-backed founder in terms of years. So I was like, I guess raised as an entrepreneur in like obsessing over numbers. I still do. I look at them like daily. I just don't do the reporting part. But now you're making me question, like, should I actually have more of a hand in it at the end of the year? Like,
dude,
it's a great point.
It makes the entire company sharper, because if you're in there digging out little nuggets, if you're in there being like, why did this happen? People are like, oh fuck, Sean's going to look at that. I better make sure that it's not fucked up.
Yeah. I do that with like all of the input numbers. I tend to not, I will look at like expenses a lot. Like I look at everything below the line quite a bit. And that's where I go like absolutely ballistic because I just hate spending money. Yeah. So it's the weirdest thing being a venture backed business. Like we still lose money and I hate it. Like I just like, it's so against the like you've seen this in chat. It's like against my DNA, it's like fish out of water. But because Brad, my business partner, and I are like historically bootstrappers, we definitely have a lot of bootstrap muscle. And like we obsess over every little thing. And I think that's like a big theme for us in 2024 is like we're gonna go for profitability this year and we're gonna just get like anal and obsessive over tons that we probably would have let slide, but definitely not where we were focused while you're in like hardcore R&D mode, which has been the last few years. Has been like just make the product, like just focus there. Now it's going to be like make the business, which is going to be a different game altogether.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, man. 2024 is going to be great for that.
It's going to be a good year, man. Next episode, we are going to get into inventory and demand planning and how Mike thinks about it. Cause I think he's got a really interesting business when it comes to inventory. And then that's like the perfect time to be dropping Fulfill here. It sponsored the pod. Can't do this without them. And their product is amazing. I've got a friend of mine moving over to Fulfill right now, and he is just raving about the process. So shout out to Fulfill for having a good product and an even better team.
Another company where you can talk to their CEO. That is the Sean Frank standard for all sponsors and all vendors in 2024.
Yeah. Sharoon won't run away.
Yeah. I got it done with Shopify. I can call him up directly. I can get Harley on the line fixing my problems. Sharoon gives you the Harley promise. He'll be there to help you solve your problems.
Do you think this is going to be an easier year in D2C or a harder year than 2023?
I think it's going to be an easier year. I think 2024 is going to feel like a return to, like the rally days of 2018, 2019. I think, COVID started in 2020. Some people had highs, some people had lows. That started throughout 2021, 2022, 2023. So like now they're in 2024. I guess it's like 4 full years post-COVID. I think it's a return to normalcy. And what that means is, stock market rate cuts, stock market rally, M&A transaction startup, fundraising starts back up. You got to think that like in 2023, if you were a private equity person focused on consumer, you basically took a year off. And I can judge
Not wrong.
how busy private equity groups are. And I'll explain why this matters in a second, but I can graph out how busy they are by the caliber of bank reaching out to me via cold email. So like mid 2023, Goldman Sachs starts cold emailing me trying to like sell my business. And I'm like, oh, things are bad. Things are bad in consumer land. If Goldman Sachs is going all the way down the Rolodex to the wallet company, you know what I mean? We got a great business here, but Goldman Sachs is trying to sell Blizzard to Microsoft, right? Like they're not trying to do my deal. So I think 2023 was a very cold year. And so I think it just has to get warmer for here. And why do I talk about private equity? Because private equity are the best financial operators in any of the, in any bucket, right? If you deal with financial engineering or financial metrics, private equity tends to be the best in the business. And it's because they actively buy companies. So they have to be really good at that. They always use debt. So they have to be really good at that. And they're comfortable going into distress. They're comfortable going into high growth companies. Like they just play across such a wide breadth of the market. So when private equity is dead, it's like the whole market's dead. And when they start to peak back up, they're a leading indicator for things like VC or any other sort of growth capital. So I think they're going to peak back up.
Do you think consumer VC is done? Like done? Do you think are they going to become private equity guys now?
No, they are not. They are not smart enough to be private equity guys. No offense to any consumer VCs listening. No, look, it should be done. but there's going to be a next wave or round or whatever, and they're going to be like, it's different this time, and maybe there's a couple of good outcomes. But I mean, the whole VC industry is dead. So
I mean, it's like I'm you know, I know you listen to the All In Pod too, and it is hilarious to me that you've got 4 venture capitalists who they're talking like private equity investors. Everything is slow growth, predictable, profitable, long term, and I'm like, this is Silicon Valley's podcast, and they are reciting the Bible of Warren Buffett. And it's just like, to me, is this where everything is in venture land right now? I don't know enough about it. I'm super ignorant. Like, we've raised money, but I'm still ignorant to the entire sector. It just, I don't know what to do with this information coming out of this pod now. And like other VCs I know that are like, I was at a general partner meeting, or like a GP, like what do they call it? LP, an annual LP event for a VC last year. And at their annual LP event, they were talking about profit. And I'm just like, I wanted to put my hand up and be like, whoa. So like, are you guys a private equity fund? Because if you are, I would like to move my money to an actual private equity fund who knows what they're doing. Not a VC pretending to be a PE fund.
Yeah, man. What I'll say is, like, VCs sometimes, or I think a lot of the time, they're in it because they have grand ambitions to change the world or change the way you interact with it, or whatever. Like, and it's beautiful because like some of the best products you use every single day came out of venture-backed companies. So like, it's
a needed function, like in terms of capital. It's definitely a needed type of capital for sure.
Right. Yeah. So we're both in agreement there. And like being a venture capitalist, wanting to deploy the capital, it comes from a place different from a love of money. But private equity comes from the thing you value most is making money. It's like you value a return on investment. Like that is like, if you're at Sequoia, you actually want to change the world and the way people use software and the way people interact with each other, whatever. Like that's your grand ambition. And if you're at any of these random private equity groups, what you actually want to do is get a 17% internal rate of return. Like that's the only thing you care about. And you don't care if it's car washes or sandwich shops or consumer or whatever else. And it's just fundamentally different. So the reason why private equity is so good at what they do is they really love making money. That's all they really care about.
It's a simple incentive structure that they've got set up, and it like informs everything they do. I will challenge you on this though. My experience with venture, while super limited to just this one company, is most venture funds that I've encountered are glorified momentum investors. They're not actually venture investors. Like they have no interest in finding the new thing or building the thing that changes the world. Like I think the vast majority of them are pure momentum people. They don't actually give a shit about discovering new categories. Like the name that you dropped, Sequoia, would probably be a very rare venture fund. Like there are hundreds of VCs. I'm going to say more than 90% are basically momentum investors that try to buy companies that are going up in a straight line. That's why they got into consumer. Consumer was booming off the back of Facebook. And it turned out to be harder than that. No shit. Anybody who's been selling physical things for a while can tell you that. But like, that's what they did, right? They were 100% like just capitalists, financial engineering. Like this consumer's doing this. I'm going to put in money in here and I want to get it out here. There was no like, oh, that's a brand new thing that could totally change the way people commute to work. None of that shit.
Oh,
like
yeah,
you're investing in fucking makeup. That's not what you were doing.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And that's why I said they're not smart enough to work in private equity. It's like, it's the reason why the same account on Twitter can be really into crypto and then really into AI and then really into whatever the next thing is and then present themselves as an expert on all of them. It's like, you don't know anything. It's like,
dude, I know you're not a big reader, Sean, but like, I feel strongly that you need to read Morgan Housel's new book, Same as Ever. He's the dude that wrote Psychology of Money. So like this, it's all it is the book is a collection of stories about all of the shit that never changes in human history. Right? Like the thing that you just said a few minutes ago, like this time is different. The book is about all of the things in our life that's never true. Like this time is not different. Human beings are like emotional meat sacks. We always behave the same. And the book is a collection of like little mini things. And it's a fast and hilarious read. I think you would laugh your ass off reading this book because like you're constantly saying the same thing this guy is. He just put it in written words.
You know, he should tweet it out then. I'd love to read it 140 characters at a time. Yeah.
Send me the whole book. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I might buy it. No, you're right. Humans are emotional meatbags because like, why do doomsday cults always work? And it's not just a modern phenomenon. Going back 2,000 years, right? Like there's always been doomsday cults. Is because humans have a desire to think of themselves as important. And of course, you are alive right now, so it must be an important time. So of course, the world's going to end. When in reality, you are one in literally 8 billion. There's going to be 8 billion more. Like you're just kind of passing through this world. And so because of that, humans love to think things are unprecedented when usually things are pretty precedented. We got a lot of history of humans.
I read the other day that there's been 100 billion people who have ever lived. 100 billion. And there's eight alive now. So like when I read that number, I'm like, we don't, as a species, we don't understand big numbers very well, or little ones, but big ones for sure. I'm like 100 billion is a lot. That's a lot of humans. So we're all very insignificant. That said though, like when you're just to like go back to 2024, like I would agree that I think this year is likely to be easier in consumer than 2023. So like, I don't want to be the doomsday person. I'm a little like, I don't know if you've ever, I like to look back at like previous economic cycles and just see like how patterns, like if there are any patterns. I'm still a little worried that like this bull market we're in is not actually a bull market. Like I'm a little worried we're in that like 2007 to 2008 moment when like shit rallied at the end of the year just before it crashed in the worst possible way. Like I'm still there. I'm like, is it true? Or is this now an upcycle? You know, like the Fed hasn't cut rates yet. And usually when they cut rates, they start to cut rates when shit gets bad. So like we still haven't seen the shit get bad.
Yeah, look, you're totally right that there's two scenarios because rate cuts are priced into the stock market right now. So if the Fed comes out and doesn't cut rates, the stock market will totally fucking fall. Like it'll fall 30% in one day if they do if they announce they're not doing rate cuts or whatever. It'd be a bloodbath. Single biggest day the stock market will ever fall, I think, if they don't cut rates. But I think they're going to cut rates, and I think they're going to cut them all the way down to zero. And the big crash you're talking about, it's going to happen in a couple of years. They're just going to do whatever it takes to kick the can down.
So Sean, look, I'll say this. I'm with you. I think 2024 is going to be an awesome year for consumer. The thing, I'm not at all going to ever argue the rate thing. The thing I'm more thinking about is employment. Right? Like employment's just been so low, even with the rate hikes and all this shit. Like it's just, we have not seen employment drop in a way that like you typically would during a rate hike cycle. So like that's the shoe that I'm like, man, if that doesn't drop, shit is going to rip. Right. And that's the part of this whole thing. Like as a operator, like I'm a very short-term pessimist. Like today I'm like anxious and pessimistic always in the day that I'm in, but I'm a long-term optimist. Like I think everything's going to be amazing over like 5 years or 10 years, but I just operate paranoid always. And it's that employment thing is still the thing that I'm waiting on, man. And I'm like, nobody's lost their job yet. Not except for the white collar workers, right? Like all the tech people last year, they lost a lot of jobs, but like regular people, there's not been a ton of unemployment.
Yeah. You could definitely argue that it's not a good time to cut rates because I don't think the data shows inflation's under control. I think there's just political pressure to cut rates. It's like I think inflation was still 3% or whatever. So yeah, it's just like, look, there's an open war on two fronts right now, and as of today, looks like there might be another war in Yemen. So we just need some of that economic stimmy to hit, and the big crash will happen later. That's
true.
why I'm so bullish on 2024. I mean, fundamentally, the world
Dude,
hasn't changed.
I hope you're right, man. I think a lot of consumer business had a hard time in 2023. I think some people in our circle did really well, but I think a lot of consumer had 2023 was not a great year for a lot of folks in consumer.
Yeah. So let's go. Thank you for listening to the rate cut conversations by two guys who do not study this for a living. So now let's talk about what we actually do. 2023 in e-commerce. I'm doing the analysis right now. I was on a plane earlier and I was already digging into the numbers. This year is one of only 2 times in company history that our MER went up year over year. So in 2021, our MER was, I'm going to throw out rough numbers so my enemies listening to the podcast can't steal from me, but let's just call it like 2.5x, right? So if I spend $1 on marketing, I get $2.5 in total revenue coming back, right? Now it's 2022. That's down from like a 3x in 2021. This year, it went right back up, and it went up while we spent more money. It is very hard for a business of my size or any business to ever spend more money and the return to get better. So 2023 was awesome for me because like that's what we call defying gravity, right? Being able to spend more money at a better efficiency. And going into 2024, I'm like, what headwinds are going to make it more like 2022? Like what's going to reverse that momentum I'm on right now? I just don't see anything, right? Like, 2022
that's a good thing to be paranoid about though. That's a really great question to ask. Look, the risk, here's the thing with risk. Risk is what you don't see coming. That's what most operators, it takes a long time to figure this out. There's no amount of planning or thinking or writing or talking that will find risk. Because real risk, by definition, is what you never see. Risk is the thing that's left over when you think you've thought of everything, is how I look at risk. So I think it's the right question to look at hey, is there anything I can see in 2022? But the reality is, dude, anything that's going to be a real headwind, we probably can't even see it. Because that's the thing that never changes, right? Is there's always shit coming.
Right. And that's why it's so good to have all of these retrospectives, right? Written in the moment in 2021, in 2022, in 2023. Because I'm like, why was 2022 such shit compared to 2023? And a lot of it, I think, is just macro, right?
Oh yeah.
Ridge is a giftable product and we are very sensitive to disposable income. That's I can plot out gas prices versus my conversion rate, and they're perfectly correlated because the average American spends 7% of their income on transport, getting around. So cars, insurance, and gas, whatever. So if I plot that out, it's just less money to spend on wallets, and it totally fucks me over. That happened Father's Day 2022. And so this year, the macro has been better from a global economic standpoint, right? Specifically in the US, I shouldn't even say global economic standpoint, but the US has been very much sheltered from
globally, Europe's been in a recession. 2023 was a recession, so it definitely wasn't good.
Yeah. And, going into 2024, I just think the government will be forced to ensure people feel wealthy in 2024, right? As we ship more money to Ukraine or Israel, or as we fight a hot war in Yemen, or there's an election, there's all these different type of things. I think the government's going to come in and try to make the average person feel wealthier. And so that's the big scary headwind for me is macro. It's our gas price is going to go up. Is there going to be uncertainty? And, as soon as government funding went away in 2022, we totally saw conversion rates take a hit. And then in 2023, people got used to that and they shot right back up. One of my predictions in 2024 is that they're going to pause student loan payments again. I think there'll be an executive order by Joe Biden to pause student loan payments. And if that happens in going to the election, I'm going to have a fucking banger 2024. But anyway, that's
your customer too, like being so giftable. So your customers obviously guys, but the people who buy it, is it often the women because it's a gift, or is it is like the majority of your purchasers still male?
I'm going to SendLane, guys. Q1, January, sign me up. I'm going to SendLane. Jimmy has consistently proven that he is there to support us, even when we were not a customer. He helped us solve email issues. I'll be really honest with you. The cost savings is probably the biggest driver for me. I think I'm going to save like over $100,000 a year switching. And there is nothing I would not do to save $100,000 on SaaS. Like whatever the darkest thing you're thinking, that's me trying to save money on SaaS. So that's a big driver. And look, I believe in the product. I've seen it. I've seen the demos. People are like, isn't migration going to be a pain in the ass? Yes. That is why I did not migrate in Q4. It's never going to be painless to do one of these things, right? Like I've been on Klaviyo for 10 years. It's gonna take some time and effort to put it in, but Jimmy is the type of guy who's committed to make it as seamless as possible. So I'm very, very excited to switch to SendLane. They're a startup, man. I think their culture matches mine. I'm excited to be there. So Photoshop a SendLane logo on my jersey because that's where I'm going, guys.
Love it.
The end user of our product is usually male, but over 50% of our purchases are women. Like it's guys asking for the product.
Yep.
And I always say like a secret to our success is like, what do you get your uncle? Right? Like you're going to see him at Christmas. Like, you know, you don't really know him that well. You got to get him something. There's no sizes involved. It's perfect. It's cool. It's carbon fiber. We're like the great uncle gift. It's like $100. Like it's
the perfect price point. Yeah.
So that's like a big key of our success. Now in 2024, we're going to sell a lot more wallets to women. Right now, 90% of end users are men. I want to get that to 80% in 2024. So we're going to have a big chunk of revenue coming from women.
How the hell are you going to do that, man? That's like, that's really hard to do. Sorry, not to judge, not to ever doubt what you're capable of, but like, it's very hard for like men heavy brands to try to sell to women, just like it's the other way is true too, right? Like women heavy brand, like known to be for women, to try to go and be like, oh, I'm just going to go open up like the men's line now. Like, no, you're not. Like you're going to take a shot at it, but like most brands fail in crossing the gender gap.
Yeah. I mean, Stanley's the blueprint. So we're just going to try to copy what Stanley did, right? From being a workwear brand for construction workers to 90% of the revenue is women's now. So we're going to try to copy that. I'm sure a lot of people listening want to copy what Stanley's doing.
What do they do tactically though to do that? What in your view, when you look at Stanley, tactically, what did Stanley do outside of having a really viral mug?
Right. So I think most of their success is serendipity. Like they just happen to make a couple of colors and they happen to be picked up by mommy bloggers in Utah and shared or whatever. But, we're going to release more colors and products that are more geared towards being what we call female friendly. Yeah. And then we're going to use our influencer strategy and Facebook targeting. And we've done a little bit of this in Q4 and they were our best performing campaigns by far were women's focused wallets. And then the stat I always tell people is 1 in 5 women in America own a gun. And it's like, damn, if they own a gun, they might own a Ridge wallet. It's like, there's probably enough of an overlap there. Yeah. 1 in 5 women in America own a gun. So regardless of how you feel about guns, it's like they'd probably use a Ridge wallet. Like our first customer base, the people who really supported us were the EDC community, guys carrying knives and guns and flashlights. So I think we could sell to them. Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, dude. I'm really curious to see how that goes. We've been doing so Peel Case is very design driven. And a big push for us in 2024 is to like expand the design, the aesthetic beyond just like the nature people, right? Let's actually go after different pockets of interest groups. Like one of our best selling products of 2023 was this thing, which is like a case that looks like an old cassette tape, right? And like everybody I see with this freaking case is a middle-aged man. It's like some guy in his 40s and 50s. My freaking coach showed up to our annual planning with it on his phone. And I'm like, when did you get that? He's like, oh, dude, I used to be a DJ. I saw this and I had to have it. I'm like, this is the perfect example of like design and color. When you meet the right niche, like it just hits. So I want to do more of that this year. I want to find like all of these little communities and just like design product for them and see if we can get Meta to actually like go and target those people because of the design.
Dude, and I think you're gonna have a lot of success doing that, because when we turn on female focused campaigns with female creative and female styles, it's like you're starting a brand in 2018 again. It's a whole new audience that you've never reached before. It's like, I got to try so hard to sell a guy a second wallet, but someone who's never heard of us, they're like, that is cool. I do want to try that out. You're finding your small circle again, your core audience all over. So
yeah,
I definitely focus on that, man. It was multi-million dollars in revenue from women for women for the first time.
Yeah, that was like, I'm happy to hear you say that, because like we've hemmed and hawed about like getting away from the core of who our customer is. And I think it's actually held us back from not expanding out of the core. Like, I think we've played with it a little bit, but not deliberately enough, like not with intention. Not by saying like, this is the market that we're going to go after. We like this customer. Here's why. TAM lines up. Like, we can make product for them. We've just never done that before. When I say it out loud, it sounds so freaking ridiculous that we haven't done that yet. Like when we have like, it's like when I do planning, I look at like, one of the first things I look at is like, what are we good at? Like, what's the thing that we can do that is different? Like, or like, what's the 2 or 3 things combined that we have that makes us unique? That's where I start like all planning strategy around. And I was doing it for Peel Case, and I'm like, this is so obvious, because like it leans into all of our strengths. Like we know how to do all the things that would facilitate targeting new pockets of customers, and yet we're not doing it. So like, we don't need to go into a new category. We just need to go after those.
Yeah, and if you can hear Mike Beckham in the background being like, it's way easier to sell an extra 1,000 of the thing you already sell 10,000 of than sell something brand new and sell 1,000 of those. And he's totally right.
Is.
Like,
it totally is.
Matt, I'm just going to pitch you an idea right now, off the cuff.
Do it.
Nobody's doing phone cases for car guys. Like,
dude, you're right. It's in the top 5. I had weird ones too, man. I went after like space nerds.
Yeah.
Right? Like
you can just do a NASA one. It'd be sick.
All the scientist people. Like, I just got really nerdy, and in December, I was poking around in all these audiences, and car people was one of the ones that my dad was like, dude, you should make one with an old Mustang on it. I'm like, you're 65. Like, I don't want to listen to you. And then I went home and I'm like, fuck, he's right. We should totally do a Mustang phone case.
Yeah, or at least all the colors. You know what I mean? Like those very iconic colors. Like, you could Porsche does a great job with their color releases. And we've been trying to get a license with them to match them up. So
interesting. I like it. Dude, I will always take a pitch, and you can pitch me any idea you want at any time. You're
all
way
right,
more attuned to this shit than I am.
No, but yeah, like it's crazy, because I think people over-index into one, the female market in general is very, very saturated, right? So like there's just so much junk being thrown around them. And then the second one is like tech. Everyone always wants to get into tech. Like everyone asks me all the time, like about adding Bluetooth and chargers and whatever else. But people really like cars, or like make phone cases for guys who like golf. Jason's missing this podcast this week because he's playing golf, and it's like nobody's doing golf phone cases, man. So
is he actually playing golf though? I saw him post a photo. He's like some villa looking over the ocean or some shit, because he sold a bajillion pans in 2023. No, you're right, man. I think there are lots of underserved audiences out there, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I default to going after women. Like, that's always my default. And I think it's just like, I've got all the share of wallet bullshit and all these other statistics just ingrained in the back of my head. But those are super competitive demos. right? Or psychographic profiles. Like those are just, everybody goes there.
Yeah. And men are easier because, I mean, I'm speaking in generalities now. Men basically don't change from like the time they're 18 or 20 till the time they die, right? So like whatever they like, and like I always bring up Connor, my CMO, as an example. Like he played guitar and he played basketball in high school. So every time anyone buys him a gift, they buy him a guitar or basketball stuff, right? And so like his cousins, his grandparents, like anyone in his life, they're like, remember you like basketball? And it's like, yeah, you know, and for more or less, he's like, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this thing, right? But like, you know, men tend to have fixed identities as they pass through time or whatever. So it's just, if you just made car ones or you just made space ones or whatever, the women in their life or their friends in their lives would be like, oh, cool, he's a space guy, I'm going to get him a space thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're so not. Yeah, you're bang on, man. I love it. All right, I'm making car cases. I'll have them ready in February or March or something.
Perfect.
Don't know what it is. So what, like, I'm curious for when you're looking at 2024 then, how much of your future growth do you think, maybe put 1, 2, 3 for me? How much is going to be new markets, like new geographies or whatever? How much is going to be new categories? And how much is going to be like new channels? Like dude, what is the order in which you're thinking of those things?
It's so funny because, you know, my talking point and commandment this year is new stuff, new places for new people. That's like the 3 things that I'm saying to like my entire team every day is like, we're going to make new stuff. We're going to sell it new places, and it's for new people. And so I look at those things together, but the example I use is I'm like, we're going to make lavender phone cases and we're going to sell them on Amazon. It's like, we don't sell phone cases now. We just launched lavender as a color. We don't sell them on Amazon. That's the definition of 2024 for us, is we're going to make new stuff for new people and we're going to sell them new places. And like that combo right there, without any additional ad spend, without anything doing crazy with the brand, by just like taking our product lines, taking our silhouettes we have and putting them to new places, I'm like, it's 30% growth on top line right there. So like, I just think it's going to be easy to hit.
Do you, I sometimes wonder, like, at what point Ridge, I think, is there. Simple Modern's there. I don't think Peeler or Lomi are there yet, but like at some point, what you're describing is like, at some point your brand, you can do so much damage by just focusing on value capture, because like you've got so much damn like brand demand. Like you've created all the value, right? Like the brand has value. And what you're talking about is like new stuff and new channels and new markets is like basically capture, right? Don't need to spend any more advertising dollars. Is just saying we don't need to generate any more demand. We have lots of brand demand and brand equity. We need more points of distribution with more things to capture the value that we've created. Would you, is that an accurate statement for like how you look at your business now?
Yeah. I mean, we're still going to do a lot of stuff to generate more demand, as much demand as we possibly can, because we're still, if next year goes awesome, we're still running the business at a 3x MER, right? So we're spending, you know, $100+ million on marketing. So we're going to do whatever we can to generate a lot of demand, but it's just like, oh, you know, we probably have like 6.5 million customers at this point. Like there's a lot of Ridge Walls floating around, and like we're starting to get to the point in the life cycle where like they're coming back to buy a second one, but it's way sicker if they come back and buy a second one plus something else. Right. So we've launched, you know, t-shirts and water bottles and razors, and, you know, what the carry-on taught us is just like, we just need more shit for people. So that's just the more stuff, more points of distribution, more entry points into the brand, because
I wonder what the ideal. So when you launch, it's not like a Ridge thing, but just in broad thought, I wrote down over the holidays is like, when you enter a new category as a brand, what is the percentage of your existing customers that you think like is a healthy go for this target that should convert to the new category? Assuming you're not launching like a product category that is far beyond what your core is. Like you launch products in categories that are like, you're looking at your customer saying like, this is for the same customer. So look at any brand. Like, what do you think? I have my own number, but like, what do you think is the target percentage that would be healthy for somebody to go for? I'm launching a new category.
So I used to think it was higher than I think it is now. I used to think, I'm like,
me too.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, like, we make wallets. We're going to launch watches. I'm like, 30% of the customer list is going to come back and buy these immediately. Yeah.
No,
you're laughing.
Not even close.
Yeah, dude, it was, I mean, we're talking single percentage points. We have 6 million plus customers. Let's just call it 5 for easy math. We send an email about carry-ons. Do you think I sell 500,000 carry-ons? No. Do you think I sell 50,000 carry-ons? No. So it's like, look, it's into that email blast. It was less than 1% of people came back and made a purchase, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I think people way overvalue this idea of brand, right? This idea that like we have to protect it, it's holy, it's whatever. I'm like, these people love their fucking wallet. They use it every day. They touch it every single day. I could send this mass email, SMS out, offer them exclusive, whatever. And like, no matter what it is, they're not that interested, right? So it's like the best thing I can do is build a product line that can acquire net new customers into the business and stop thinking about a product as an LTV product and start building out CAC products, building out products to acquire new customers. And so the carry-on, now we're running carry-on ads, right? Carry-on shopping campaigns, whatever. And carry-ons are 25% of our revenue right now, right? It's like an immediate bump of, high 5 figures in revenue hitting our bank account every single day. And it's not from returning customers, it's from new customers who are like, I need a carry-on, right?
Yeah. I think that's the thing too. Like there's so many reasons why your existing customers aren't buying your new product. And most of it has nothing to do with the fact that they love your brand. Like that's not a thing, right? It's, I don't need a carry-on luggage. I don't need a new watch right now. I don't want one of those things right now. They're just not it. Like consumers are in market for things when they're in market for things.
Dude, without a doubt.
We marketers aren't changing that. That's like, I know that people in ad land on Facebook think we're somehow shifting behavior by running better fucking ugly ads. We're not. Like Facebook is finding the people who are in market. Like you can't influence that by launching a new category, even if you think your brand is hot shit. I think the number for you, I think the healthy number, my healthy number is over time, 10% max. Like that's where I think you get crossover. Like when we launched Lomi, we had, it was like 1% of Pila Case customers bought a Lomi.
Yeah.
Like one. Like, and I'm like, and that was like the so on brand and 1%, like it was nothing.
Shout out to some North Beam MMM and some other areas, which we've been doing the work, but we saw this a year ago, how impactful TV has been for us. And I've been saying this too. It's like a lot of people are on Facebook, but not everyone is on it. Not everyone is on Instagram. Like,
I don't even think it's
controller and my staff accountant, I'm talking to them the other day and they're like, because I wanted them to log into Meta to be able to check how much we owe Meta because we went on invoicing for this period. They're like, we need to create Meta accounts to log in. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't have a Facebook account? Like, no. I'm like, what? You don't have a Facebook account? You're in your early 30s, late 30s, late 20s. Wow. No account. So, and also I think TV just gives you your brand a level of credibility and trust.
It's trust
just by being there.
Yeah, and younger Sean would have been like, it's a failure, it's a disaster, we have to scrap the whole thing. but new Sean is just like, I'm starting a new business, that's just my Kickstarter, that's just my bonus revenue coming in. Because eventually over time, you are right that your people will become in market for something and then they're more likely to buy from you because they trust you or whatever, right? We sent an email out about rings. Unless you're getting married or have lost your ring, you do not need one, right? But If a guy's 25, right, in 5 years he's getting married, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that company makes rings, and they give me a coupon for it. I guess I'll buy that one." Right? It's just waiting for them
This
to
is the
come to
whole
market.
short term, long term thing, man. Like this goes back to when we launch. Like we're going to launch a new category this year for Pila Case, and I'm telling my team now, and I'm like, I want you all to have really pessimistic short term expectations for this, and when they come in pessimistic, like this is lower than you want it to be, that does not make the product a failure. It just means that you're not accounting for time. And like this game is a very long game. Like
Dude.
Most brands can get very big if they would just be patient.
Yeah, dude, you are totally right. I mean, when we launched watches, so we've launched watches twice now. There's the first watch and the second watch. We really thought we were going to sell out in one day. I mean, we ordered 10,000 watches. Okay. Like,
oh my God, that's so many watches.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, we would have had to do like 8 figures in revenue or something crazy. We're like, we're probably going to sell out in one day. We did not sell out in one day, dude. I mean, it took 2 years or whatever. Right. And so, like, when we launched, we're like, the website must be broken. Like we've only sold 4. Like the website must be, like something must be fucked up.
It's gotta be a technical bug.
Yeah. No, it just turns out that like people were not in market for that. Now we've retooled it. The second watch launch, okay, we've definitely figured it out. We made a lower price point, way more value packed if you're a watch consumer, right? More limited releases, and we did end up selling out of styles and colors or whatever in a way shorter time period. So.
What did you change in the watch from one to the next? Like what tell me about the product iteration there. That's interesting.
So the first watch was a $500 quartz watch. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about, so it was on par with a couple of Breitling models that have come out. So it was like Swiss assembled, Swiss movement, but it was a quartz watch, and the watch community, like they're the hardest. I mean, Meetab's listening to this. Like they are the worst.
Dude, I'm a watch guy too.
Yeah.
Meetab and I, we're always talking about watches.
The nerdiest people. Okay. Yeah. It's so hard to please these people. And like, literally it's like the specs are the same as a Breitling. The Breitling's $1,500. Ours is $500. People did not like that. So we retooled it. We used titanium. So the new one's $275 titanium case. The movement in the watch alone costs $100. It's like the movement. The movement is found in watches that sell for $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever. Yep. And so spec for spec, like we did, everything possible to make it the best value in watches currently. And it totally is. So people like that, and they bought them.
That's super smart, because that is dude, watch people are like, it's movement, finish, materials, and then brand and value, resale value. Like the super nerds like Meetab are like, they don't care about the brand, but they care about the other stuff. That's fascinating.
Which is such bullshit, because Gucci and Louis Vuitton make literal dog shit watches, and they sell them for $10,000. Like they cost $50.
Yeah, but not to watch people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference, right? Like if you're trying to sell a Ridge watch to a watch community, they're a different buyer than like if you look on TikTok at like I watch videos on TikTok, they destroy the fashion brands. Like they just verbally diarrhea all over top of them. They hate them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look, we've learned, and I think we're gonna make more watches in the future. They're gonna be more like just the value packed one. It's like we're trying to make a watch like on par with like something Seiko does, right? Like you could never make a better watch than Seiko. That is the reality. They make the best watches at the best prices. So we're trying to make something a little more modern with the same sort of value packed in.
That's a great, dude. I love the space. I mean, I've always loved the watch space. It's a very difficult one, because like it's a classic prosumer market. Like everybody that's in that, like the majority of the people that move that market are so nerdy on the product category. They're impossible to please. It's a business built on criticism.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes the whole industry work.
Dude, yeah. And like when we bought 10,000, I'm like, that is how many like a high-end watch brand will sell in a year. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like it's all about exclusivity. It's all about 1 of 50. It's all about like, it just
your manufacturer must have thought you were drunk. They're like, look at this dipshit in America buying more watches than I sold in the last 3 years, all at once.
Yeah, they're probably like, these guys must be good at selling something.
That's awesome. All right, so your 2024, any other big themes for you this year?
I mean, more places, more stuff for more people. Like that's probably like the big talking point. I mean, the brand just continues to go more global than before, right? Like in 2018, we were 100% US focused, and now, I mean, we're doing 8 figures abroad, right? So I think this is the year we have our first 8-figure month internationally, which will be really sick. So we're going to start doing stuff like that.
Wow.
Just leaning harder into like a more global presence. I think we're like a perfect product for that. Yeah, look, man, it's been a great year. Profit was up 100% year over year. I think I can get that to happen again. So I think there's still a lot of meat on the bone. And if you're listening to this, it was very common in 2020, 2021, 2022 to run your business like you were going to exit. And there's some good principles in there, right? Like you should have books that are auditable. You should not fuck around too much with like trying to hide profit. You should just pay your taxes, be a profitable brand, like do all that type of stuff, right? Don't get too into debt. But the flip side is, we have a friend who's very wealthy, who has a very huge company, and we were talking in chat, and I'm like, he was talking about how he's not going to buy his manufacturer because he's like, acquirers don't like that. And I'm like, who gives a fuck if acquirers like that or not? Run your business like you're running your business today. I think we're going to get that. If you just follow that one key principle, I think of an amazing 2024. It's like, stop focusing on exits, run your business like you could exit, but make the best decision in the moment for your company. So there is fat on my company that I'm going to start slowly carving off. And some people would say, don't carve that off. Like when you sell your business, you could just add all that stuff back and make them do the hard work. But I don't know if I'm selling it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what, like, I'd much rather just save the money now.
It's interesting. So like as a venture-backed business, the question I asked on this topic, the thing that's like driving most of my thinking right now is assuming you had a magic wand. Okay. That's like the assumption that you have to make here. But here's the thing. If you are going to own your company forever and you run under that premise, what would you change? Right. And the answer to that question will likely result in a much healthier business that you actually want to own and run. And that's coming from a guy like, we're venture backed. And I think that that's still the right question to ask, right? Because like it means that you just build a great business to own. And a great business to own doesn't mean that like, oh, you've got to maximize, like you got to go carve all the fat off and squeeze the extra 3% of profit out. That doesn't make it a great business to own. It might, right? Like if that's the only thing you gave a shit about, then like fire half your employees. It's going to be easier. But I think that when you ask that question, it'll prompt a lot of healthy thinking around like, okay, do I even want to be in this market? Do we like this product? Do I like the way I'm serving customers? Like there's so many things that question should prompt you to look at. And you can plan around it.
So what would you change about your company or your companies?
Dude, I wrote I've like been doing a ton of writing on this. If I had a magic wand, I'd remove the venture capital from Pelicase. It's a consumer business. You shouldn't have any investors. I would probably, what we're doing, we're actually going for profitability over growth as a venture-backed business. And that's hard for us given our R&D costs are so, it's 50% of my overhead is like product, right? So that's like, I don't know how we're going to do that yet, but we're going to figure it out. So like, it's almost like the thing I would change is I would go back to bootstrapping principles, just because I find it more enjoyable to run a business that way. So like, there's a ton of stuff in there tactically, but like, that's the theme of it all. The theme of it all is like a return to bootstrapping, even with venture on the cap table.
That's awesome, man. I
That's
don't
my
know.
answer.
I don't know what mine is. I have to think about it long and hard. Like the thing I would actually change the most
It's
about this
tough.
company.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like, you guys have like, you've got a great company, right? And you guys have been at it a long time. So you already run it like you're going to own it for a long time because you guys have. So I think like I'm in year 6 of this venture, and it's about this time. Like like for me, everything is in 5-year seasons, right? That's how I think, just 5 years at a time. So like I left year 5 and I'm like, all right, new season. What would I change? Like what did I like about the last season? What didn't I like? And how does this thing, how should it fit into my life? Right. And I think that like a lot of this for me, and I don't know how you are on this, Sean, but like a lot of business building for me is like, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. I'm post-economic, like I don't need the job. I don't need the money. So like, if it's not fun, fuck am I doing this for? So the fat to me to carve off is what's not fun.
Yeah, man, you got me thinking over here. I don't know. We often talk about running this business for as long as we possibly can, right? And we basically have to think about Ridge as like a family office for all of us who own it.
Right.
So it's like we bought a factory, we bought buildings, we're gonna start doing more stuff like that. But I think I have to think about like what is a fundamental thing I want to change about this company. It probably isn't.
Dude, it's an interesting question.
Yeah,
just think about it.
And then you can make that your 2024 plan, everybody.
That's the idea.
All right. Well, I think we've been rapping for almost an hour. Matt, anything else you want to cover?
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm just excited for the year. I want to get at it. I've had a week and a bit off. I'm like itchy. Like, let's get to work here.
Dude, yeah. I had the least relaxing week of my life ever. So I'm excited to jump in and do some reporting, guys.